Hello, friends. Good evening to everyone, and I welcome all of you in this very exciting session, a different session, because we are not talking about some grand theory. We will be talking about how to run your concrete batching plant efficiently. It's a very tall topic to take for this discussion, and let me try to do justice with this subject with the experience that I have, right? And we are exactly right on time. And let me show you some slides today, okay? Let us go and work with some slides. So, this is what I mean, how to run your concrete batching plant, and it is a 5-point blueprint, right? So, I am going to discuss with you specific 5 points, 5 pain points. What is the solution to these 5 pain points? And then the blueprint which we will make from these pain points. Okay, so let's go ahead to the first slide. And the first pain point which is not even realized, लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि ये पेन पॉइंट है उनके बैचिंग प्लांट में. मुझे पता है बहुत सारे बैचिंग प्लांट एक्सपर्ट्स, बहुत बड़ी बड़ी आरएमसी कंपनीज आज हमारे देश में, एंड दे आर ऑल एक्सपर्ट्स. सो आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट दोज top 5% people. I'm talking about the remaining 95% people. So please excuse me if you think I am trying to be overconfident. I am just sharing my own experience of running a concrete batching plant with you. So the first point is throughput. And this word we always confuse with the word output, right? So we confuse throughput with output. So every time we say what is the output of your batching plant, whereas the right question to be asked is throughput. And what does it mean? Let's look closely at the slide. This means that even a 10-second delay in your one batch cycle means you are going to have a loss of productivity. So why I say that, imagine that there is a huge concrete pour going on and there are thousands of cubic meters of concrete. So there are 4-5 RMC suppliers for that project, and everybody is sending their transit mixers. Now it is the competition amongst you all who can supply the maximum concrete, and therefore even a 10-second delay. So there is a 6 or 7 or 8 cubic meter transit mixer standing under your batching plant. You have to fill it. Let's say it is 1 cubic meter per minute capacity. You need 6 minutes or you need 8 minutes to fill up that transit mixer. But if there is a delay of 10 seconds when the one transit mixer leaves and the second one comes in position, if there is a delay of 10 seconds, what does happen? With this small delay, what happens is you start losing productivity, and this loss can be as high as 16%. That's what we have calculated at number of batching places. So what you have to do is you have to check that 1 minute per cycle time, how you can bring it to 50 minutes, 50 seconds, and 50 seconds from one transit mixer going away to the second one in position. So it is not that he will take 2 minutes for U-turn, getting into the position. These are all small points, but if you want to run your plant in a smart way, output is one thing. I'm going to speak about the output, but now I'm talking about throughput. So throughput is the batching speed per hour. How many cubic meter you are able to do in 1 hour when you have transit mixers available. Sometimes TMs are not available. What can you do? Even in that case, this throughput is important. But let's say there is a heavy pour, you have TMs available. How much concrete can you produce in 1 hour, and how you can increase that quantity per hour? So let's say you are doing 55 cubic meter per hour. How can you increase it by 10% and go to 60? End of the day, you will find a huge increase in the volume of your plant output, because you'll be getting more orders from the same pour, and a huge increase in profitability of the plant. But anyway, let's go ahead and we'll keep this point of throughput in mind and go ahead. The second pain point is customer satisfaction. RMC business, I know it is a massive problem, the RMC business. And I have seen, I just shared in my post that when I was working as RMC, it was a big challenge for me. Every day, each client thinks their order is the most important order. And for you, it is a daily struggle. All the clients shouting on you on telephone. And what do you do in such a case? So client satisfaction is a very far-fetched thing for RMC owner. अरे बाप रे, कौन client को satisfy करेगा? Somehow try and complete his sport. But this is one area where I am going to tell you today how you can approach this point of client satisfaction. For this, the most important thing is the pre-pour meeting. So you need to have a meeting with your clients, and we don't have to be on the defensive all the time. In the pre-pour meeting, you are the concrete expert. The client, he's not a concrete expert, he's a builder, he's a contractor. That is his main job. Your job is to produce concrete supplied in the best condition and to ensure that the concrete has the highest quality. So you are the person in charge. You are not just a supplier, you are the expert when it comes to concrete supply business. And therefore, before every pour, even if he's a small client or he's a mega client, we have all seen in RMC business, जो छोटा client है उससे ही maximum problem हो जाते हैं हमें. So we need to have this pre-pour meeting before the pouring is done with the client. And for that, जब आप परचेस ऑर्डर लेते हो तो आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट भी बहुत क्लियर होना जरूरी है. सो व्हाट ऑल शुड बी देयर इन दिस प्री पोर मीटिंग? The biggest problem that we face in our concrete batching plants is we fill the concrete in transit mixer, it is sent to a site, and then there is traffic jam, there is loss of slump, and there is a problem from client dissatisfaction, even rejection of concrete, right? So how do we tackle it normally? हमारे टीएम के ड्राइवर तो बहुत एक्सपर्ट है, आपको पता है. साइट के ऊपर पहुंचते देखते हैं स्लम्प कम है, तो व्हाट दे डू, दे इंक्रीज, दे ओपन द वाटर टैप एंड दे ऐड द वाटर. सो योर वाटर टू सीमेंट रेशियो गोज फॉर 6. Now you will say, who will know even if my water to cement ratio is disturbed? The concrete will tell you next day. There will be cracking on concrete, plastic shrinkage as well as drying shrinkage cracks because your water to cement ratio has gone up. So in a way, you are trying to hide one problem and you are exposing yourself to a big client dissatisfaction. Failure of queues, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about cracks which are visible immediately in first 12 hours to 36 hours. And we start losing client satisfaction from that point. So we have to train our transit mixer operators. What they are going to do, they are going to carry cans of 50% water, 50% plasticizer, a 5-liter can. And in your pre-pour meeting, you are going to explain this point nicely to your client, and you will make him agree, you will make him sign that in the eventuality of delays, we are going to add this plasticizer in your presence, mix through the drum by 1 minute of rapid mixing, and then use that concrete. So this is the point number 1, which you will make your client to agree. The second is revibration. So we can have a separate session on revibration. Fantastic subject. Once you place the concrete in the slab, it needs to be revibrated after 40 minutes, right? And it has to be done in a certain way. You are the concrete expert. You have to teach, you have to explain it to the client that he needs to revibrate the concrete. It's a perfectly scientific, excellent methodology to avoid all kinds of cracking in our concrete. So once you tell him that this is the requirement of concrete, not you as a RMC supplier, your 90% problems would go away. First one, no cracking. Second one, the concrete which is revibrated will have such a nice strength that even if somebody does NDT on that concrete due to whatever failure of cube, something wrong happening, you will be rest assured that concrete will show far better strengths due to revibration. So that point number 2 has to be in your minutes of meeting, of pre-pour meeting, the minutes. Plastic sheet is another important point. As we start doing the high-rise concrete, first floor, second floor, third floor, and the moment we go to the upper floors, the wind velocity is high. और जब wind velocity high होती है तो क्या होता है? all the moisture, all the water content in the top surface of concrete is taken away by the wind. During the summer क्या होता है, the sun is there shining, the temperature is more than 40 degrees, sometimes more than 45 degrees in few of the Indian cities, and then what happens, all the water is evaporated. So sun and wind are our two enemies. And how do we tackle these two enemies? By covering the concrete immediately after revibration is done with a plastic sheet. This means within 1 hour, you will cover the concrete, and if there is some delay, what you will do, you will sprinkle the water on top after the revibration is done and then cover it with plastic sheet. So we are protecting the concrete from these climatic conditions, which are not going to give problem to the client. Of course they will give problem to him if there are cracks and the water leakages happen. We all know how our clients are. They want to deduct your money, but you want to save your money. You also want to save his concrete. You also want to save his headache. It takes years to build a name in the industry as a ready mix concrete supplier. If you consistently follow these strategies, the concrete would have a very beautiful life and you will have a beautiful brand name. Then of course slump agreement is also something which you need to look at, because the client, he insists on slump. Actually it is none of business of your client what slump, whether it is 120 or 150 or 170. Segregation should not happen, that's your responsibility, okay. But client should be worried about water to cement ratio, strength of the concrete, durability of the concrete. Slump of concrete is your prerogative, it is your decision. Sometimes I have seen in cities like Mumbai, suddenly the traffic gets reduced and the transit mixer which was supposed to reach after 1.5 hours reaches in 30 minutes with a higher slump. So he will make it stand by, and for 1 hour that poor fellow, that transit mixer, it gets occupied on the site. So as long as slump is acceptable, if it is 125 is the agreed limit, if it is 150, 160, the concrete is not segregating, it should be allowed to pump. Our concrete pumps, they are excellent way for controlling the quality. If you send a bad concrete, the pump will reject it, it will not pump. It's an excellent inbuilt system of quality control that we have. So let that system work, and you tell your client, boss, that slump is my responsibility, segregation should not happen, my responsibility, but you don't stick on a particular slump value. If my pump can pump the concrete, you should accept the concrete. This is a debatable issue, but you need to continuously speak about it, and if not today, tomorrow the client would agree to it. We are all discussing about pain point number 2, about your pre-pour meeting that you are going to have with your client before every pour. Friends, the next point about customer satisfaction is our QC technician who is on the site. This QC technician, उसको लगता है उसका काम है सिर्फ क्यूब्स भरना और कोऑर्डिनेट करना प्लांट के साथ में. No, that's not his job. His job is to check all these points which we discussed. So a QC technician which you have placed on the site, he will ensure the slump and then add admixture cans. So each TM will be carrying these admixture cans, and it will be his responsibility to add the dosage of plasticizer as per requirement. He will go at the pumping place and he will tell the site supervisor about revibration. He will remind him continuously whether you are doing it or not. He will ensure that they have kept sufficient amount of plastic sheet to cover the concrete. Otherwise he will say, I will stop this pour. If you don't have plastic sheets, I will stop the pour, I will not allow, because you have signed the pre-pour. Why we are doing this, all this we are doing for the life of that concrete. We are not doing it for our own benefit. And once your client gets that point, his customer satisfaction will increase. He will understand that your quality technician is an additional, like, highly qualified supervisor that he's getting free of cost along with the concrete supply. Tough job, isn't it? But very, very powerful in getting the 5 out of 5 stars from your client in terms of satisfaction. Also, another point we will speak more in more detail about it is can you design your concrete for extreme condition? So we know that in metro cities the traffic jams are going to be there, and how you are going to handle these traffic jams. Can you design your concrete with longer slump, longer retention? We have in our concrete this fantastic standard deviation. So we did one fantastic session on that few weeks ago in our Wednesday sessions. uh, so just go through that session again on standard deviation. We need to use that. We need to design our concrete appropriately, so that later on you don't have to uh, hide your cube results, right? So whether your client casts the cubes or whether you cast the cubes, we need to get those strengths, and that is an important part of your client satisfaction. And this all can be done with the right mix design.